because as I've told you, I think in other support groups, my passion is travel, and one of my dark shadow things, if you want to call them that, is mourning the fact that we can't travel the way that I had envisioned we would. So right now I'm looking for inspiration to other moms who said, well, sure, I have challenges, but I'm going to travel anyway,
Yeah.
So that's why I reached out to you. I know you've done a lot of travel. I look up and I aspire to live the lifestyle that you have, where and all the things, a lot of the things you've done. So if you want, I'll just kind of launch more into this travel aspect of the interview.
Sure.
First, for people who don't know, just tell me a little bit about your family, about Thomas, and your current situation.
Sure. So we're a beautiful blended family. We have David and I have 4 kids. There's 25-year-old Alicia. Thomas is 25 as well.
Wow.
And then Sean, who's 23, and then Greg, who's 19. So at the moment, Greg's living at home, but we're about to boot him out. No, I'm joking. It's time for him to spread his wings, because we're living in a very small apartment in Auckland. We do have David does have a lovely home in the country in Scotland. So we get, it's lovely. We are able to have the contrast. I mean, I'll tell you a story. I remember putting out to the universe that I wanted to live in the city, have an apartment, and have a country home. The only thing I didn't stipulate is I wanted them both to be in New Zealand. So it's interesting enough, because of the adventurous soul that I am, I always wanted to travel. And I think my dad was a traveler as well. He loved traveling. I mean, he wouldn't even sit still to enjoy the moment. He was already thinking about the next moment, but I'm trying to instill in myself to enjoy the moment wherever we are. Yeah. And so, when I first went to university, my first travel out of New Zealand was when I was 20, and that I got the bug from that. And off I went, and I spent, years in Asia, and did a lot of travel then. And then Thomas became unwell and got meningitis and has lots of challenges. Now, navigating that in Hong Kong was a little bit easier because we had support. We had paid support at that time, that we paid for. It wasn't, Hong Kong is very much user pay, whereas it's different here in New Zealand. Those things are paid for by the state, assuming they assess you as having that need of that amount of support, right?
Okay.
So we tried a number of different places going with Thomas, just on short trips. And because we had someone with us, that was okay. But I guess the downside of that for me and my seeking is it meant that I guess I numbed myself out to what I was really feeling, because it wasn't in my face. I could say, oh, you look after Thomas. So I actually distanced myself from Thomas, because at that time I thought he needed to be fixed. Yeah. Not appreciating the beautiful, amazing human being that he is, and just realizing that he had come in for a very different mission than my mission. His purpose was completely different from mine, even though they're interlaced or interlocked. He's come in here for a very different reason from mine, and part of it is to awaken me, so that I can actually get on and share what I'm meant to be sharing. And so that travel was always there. That travel, that desire to travel, be adventurous, see different things. When Thomas went through puberty, that was the time that we were looking at moving back. I had divorced, and we were looking at moving back to New Zealand, and that was in 2012. Now, puberty for Thomas was not good, because we were going through this challenge of, even though I knew he wanted to be in New Zealand, because he actually got my attention through seizures, through not breathing. Mum, I want more than concrete block and I want to be in the, in Kiwi land. I want fresh air. I want the outdoors and stuff. He made that very clear to me. He was behaving badly, really badly, and aggression at me, so much so that I actually rang the police to say, okay, if I call you, please come in with a compassionate heart. My son is trying to communicate stuff to me, but I need help,
Right.
and so, that was always at the back of my mind. So why was I leading down that path? That was about travel, puberty. Okay, we took a flight because his father wanted to see him, and I thought, right, okay, well, I don't mind taking him to Hong Kong. I have some time with friends. We brought one caregiver with us, so it's 15, so there was 3 of us traveling. Now, it started at the airport where the head of Cathay Pacific sort of came over and said, is this child safe, fit to fly? Oh, you can imagine. Ooh, for me, I just got so angry. I could feel it, and I didn't project it. Fortunately, I'd done enough work on myself that I didn't project it out. But I said, yes, Thomas has challenges. He can act out. We have. He wasn't acting out then, but he was watching things, and he was, he was excited. So there was this excitement, and people could see it was a little bit unusual. And anyway, they let us on, and he was good on the flight, but there was another flight that he wasn't, and the screaming and the yelling, and I just shrunk, and it was hard. It was just, it was really hard. I mean, there was one time even before that, where we were going on a family trip to the States, that my parents, sisters and cousins, and I lost Thomas in the Philippines airport.
Oh my gosh.
But those 5 minutes were surreal. And actually, and as I remember it, when I stood, because I ran frantically looking, couldn't find him, and this would probably, maybe it was 5 or 10 minutes, and then when I stood still, it was like the tide opened, and he walked through.
Oh my goodness.
It's just I get how could I have not, because it was these particular toilet, I was in the toilet and he came with me. He opened the door, and then there was no door out of the toilets.
Oh my goodness.
And so I had to finish what I was doing.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
I can only laugh about it, but the thing that I wish I had was one of those reins. I don't know if you've ever seen them, the reins for kids. I thought, even though he was too old for it, I wish I had them, so at least while I was in the toilet. Anyway, that was so that's one of those crazy stories. So he did have bad behavior, and so since then we haven't taken him on a long flight.
Okay.
He has been on short flights. I don't know if you saw that on Facebook. Are you on Facebook? Did you see that one for his birthday?
No, I didn't see that. I missed it.
Oh, it just warmed your heart. I'll send it to you. Have a look in my Facebook. It's just sharing around the 19th of September. It's a 20 seconds video of Thomas flying in a small plane. So he loves it. He loves to travel. Now, what that's ignited is we do a plan for Thomas every 5 to 6 years. So we've just done a new one probably about May time this year. And we all recognize that he loves to travel. So we're looking at hiring like an RV, we call it a camper van here, to get to see if he would like that. It might be too small, but for him to go around and potentially do card readings for people, to go to different so trying those sorts of things for him. And I would love to go, because I love, that suits me as well, and we would need support as well. So it's just, those things, it's coming around for him, and we're looking at the moment, and I'm starting to look at it now how we can get him to Scotland for a period of time. And staff, how could we do that based on the funding? Now that the provider says, well, actually we can pay for some support in Scotland.
Wow.
So, but we just have to work out how we can manage that. Obviously we need people to help us to get him there and all the rest of it. So what I'm saying is I plan, and I'm looking at this like 3 years in advance. Right. I don't have the flights booked, but I'm looking at ways when we're next in Scotland, I'll be meeting people from different care organizations, meeting other parents that have children that have exceptional needs and are differently abled. You know what I mean? Just going to start making plans for that. But it is that networking. It is that networking that,
absolutely. I had one question on that. With Thomas he's still in a shared living situation, a kind of group home with other men his age, right?
No, he's not.
He's not. Oh, okay.
He's moved into his own home.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So that was part of the plan, to get him his own home. He doesn't have flatmates at the moment because he has, when he wants them, we'll look at it.
Okay.
But at the moment, we're finding he's going out to different groups and he's getting enough interaction. He is so sensitive. He needs his downtime.
That makes sense. And then he always, obviously he has a caregiver with him at all times then.
Yes.
And if someone, this is always a question I ask, if that caregiver got sick, who's the emergency backup for him then? Is it you, or are you close enough? Okay.
Yeah, it is really. Although in saying that, I don't manage the roster. Okay. Now there is Thomas's contract is a residential contract. It's not me running it. Now that's part of me, being the control freak that I am, would love to be fully in control of it, but I can't do it. And we need to start working out a succession plan for when I'm not here.
Absolutely.
No, I'm not. I've got another 30 odd years, right? I'm 57 soon. So, I figure I've got at least another 30 years. But this is really part of the plan. He wants a normal life. So it's providing that for him, so he's as independent as possible from me. I don't know if I told you, Kerry, not so long ago, was it just before I went to the States? Mum, you don't need to come round so much.
Oh my gosh.
Now he obviously, he's nonverbal, but it was in his energy.
Yes.
Because I just was dropping something off, and it was just like, okay, bye, slam the door. And it's like, oh God, hit me with my backside with the door. You don't need to stay. And it's just like, okay.
It's funny. Typical 20-something-year-old.
Well, and that's it. And so that's the beautiful part of it, is recognizing those typical sides. Just our ones are differently abled, and it's just finding that bit. So if Hazel's got that telepathic stuff going on, wow.
Right. I hope so.
No,
I have one question.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
She does.
Okay.
She's waiting for you. She's waiting for you. And that's what was happening for me, is waiting for me to get clearer of my baggage, that stuff, so I could hear.
It's funny because I'm hearing now my type A personality. It's like, okay, so how do I get my baggage to clear? What are the steps I need to take?
And that's so much what I've been like, and it's just, and it's being authentic and real with yourself about, oh, I can hear that voice saying you're not good enough, you should have done this, or you're supposed to have done that. Nah. And it's okay, I can hear you, thank you for that acknowledgement. I can acknowledge that human part of me. And what I'm choosing to do is fall deeper into that peaceful place, and then act from there. So it's
Right.
we so often act from the head. It's like you should, you're supposed to, you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying, I'm not speaking from a place that I've got it totally worked out. Not at all. That voice comes in. And it's just like, hello, yes. And some days I follow it. Oh,
Right.
I've gone down that. Right, I'm not. And it's like, oh, okay. Now I know why I'm exhausted. Now I know, because if I just listened, I would have done that. Okay, cool. And it's not, and it's to be compassionate with yourself.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I beat myself up so badly. I mean, yeah, the bruises and the self-doubt, the self-talk, it just diminishes you, but not, yeah, we're human.
Right. Absolutely. Well, I did have a question that popped up while you were talking about Thomas being in his home. So going back to travel, if you were in Scotland and Thomas's caregiver called out, what would happen? Because that's always a concern for me with thinking about maybe down the road.
And well, what I always do in that moment is I remember that it's his choice and our choice that he gets on with his life, right?
Okay.
Right. And his wish would be for me to do what I want to do. So it's happened.
Okay.
Right. And I can only do what I can do. So, for example, I arrived back into New Zealand last year in April. As I was getting on the flight from Scotland, Thomas had a fall and ended up in hospital. Now, he ended up with a fracture of the skull, 2 brain bleeds, and it wasn't witnessed.
My goodness.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I'm and I don't know. So in that moment, I surrender. I surrender to the universe, to God, to the divine. I have constantly lived with the fear of Thomas dying. And I keep coming back to what I remind myself is his soul's choice when his time. It's the only way I can get peace with it.
Yes.
Carrie, it's the only way, because I can't control everything. And I know that he wants me to get on with my life. Because I know he wants me to feel fulfilled and loved. And we know that when we're taking care of ourselves, they get the best of us. We don't, yeah. I remember once just hitting Thomas as a smack, right? Because I was so frustrated with him. And that was the last time I did it. But, it's just, it was by looking at my own stuff, where that rage comes from, where that real anger comes from, it's not at him. It's actually other things that have happened in my life, and by me healing that actually helps him. So anyway, but so what actually happened in that? So what I could do is from managed isolation, because we had to be isolated for 2 weeks. I couldn't see him in hospital, so I had to manage it. And I just each day or each moment I was surrendering that. And then I'd get my daughter to go and see him, or I would get different people to go and visit and get different perspectives. But I realized at the end of the day, it was his choice. He's teaching that service provider that he needed 24/7 care. Actually, from that very hard time, that actually got us the 24/7 funding, so Thomas could move into his home. So it's horrible to say that. And he nearly had to die for them to realize that he needed a 24-hour thing for him to get what he needs. And now he's flourishing.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's such a bittersweet event as I talk about it. But there was a process for me in having to surrender and go through the helplessness, the hopelessness, knowing that a long time ago, that soul chose a particular path,
Mm-hmm.
and he chose me as his mum
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to
Yes,
walk this path with him.
that gives me a lot of comfort too, because of course, you know, you talked about your child dying is one of the biggest issues that any parent has, and then yeah, also just, you know, trying to make decisions for Hazel. You know, I always think, oh well, she's only 9, so I'll give her my all until she's 18, because then she'll kind of be the empty nester. And but you know, no, it's up to her, not me. So I'm gonna learn to surrender. I love that. I'm writing down the big things you say here, but you know, surrendering and just trusting that she knows what she's doing. Her soul knows what it's doing. So that's a great reminder.
That's just, you listen to that, the words that have just come out of your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is it. It's not that it doesn't give us permission to be careless.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Right.
it gives us permission to actually listen to our heart and what's calling us. Now, there might be times you think, okay, yes, we do need to cancel this trip. Yep, and that's sensible, and the reasons will evolve after it. But sometimes, no, we're still going. Yes, I know you're having, you know, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of it's maybe not so much trips, it's more going out. Like there was one time, like when we just moved back, that every Friday night, Thomas had multiple seizures, and we had to call the ambulance. And every Friday night we'd be almost the same guys coming, and we're off. And I never quite, actually, maybe now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I'll get the lesson from that, but I'm not sure. But you mentioned something about working. Have I ever worked per se? Was it one of the questions?
I think the question was, yeah, what kinds of work were you doing throughout, you know, his growing up?
Right. So in Hong Kong, my husband lost his job, and he said, "Oh, you better find a job," right? And I ended up working for a company in finance, and I could just, and they asked me to do something that was illegal, and I said, no, I'm not doing that. And then my ex-husband found a job. I thought, no, I need to change. And I went and worked with schools. So I was like a finance manager for schools. And actually I enjoyed that side of it. But then my soul was calling to write the first book. And so that's when I left that. So it was very sporadic. And even though I was trained as an accountant, the book was calling. And I had to go through this process of, you know, I'm not a writer, I'm not a speaker, I'm not, you know, and actually realizing there's as I could like let go of the baggage that I talk about, then I could see actually there is that creative person in there. There is that person that has a voice and is willing to share her life story so that others can actually get on with theirs. You know, it's just what it is. And then I got a job when I came back to New Zealand, and it was working with a disability organization. And I had to travel a long way, and they couldn't pay much. And then the travel and the exhaustion that came, and then Thomas he wasn't with me full time. He was 3 days somewhere and 3 days with. So that it just exhausted me. And Thomas was at school at the time. And what happened was, this is a funny story. He was struggling with taking medication with me, right? One particular day, a bus would come to pick him up, right? This one day, I was still in my dressing gown, Ugg boots, you know, like big furry boots. Fortunately, it wasn't a rainy day in Auckland. The bus was going to leave, and I said, no, you need to come. I'm going to come. I need to give him the medication. Here I am running down the street with the medication, ready to, and in the bus he took it. I mean, it's hilarious. And other times I would want to get off to work, because I would get to work early, you know, I'd get on with things, and Thomas wouldn't refuse to get in the car or refuse to get, and I couldn't go.
Oh my goodness.
And I just say, I can't come, I've got to be late or whatever.
Mhm.
And I thought, right, there's a deeper message here. And the deeper message is, Mum, you're not doing what you're meant to be doing.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. And really it wasn't until I made that decision to join David, not that David would have gone without me to the US, but when that was a really hard decision to leave Thomas in residential care to go to the US. Now it was leaving Thomas as well as Alicia and Sean. Greg was going to be in boarding school in Scotland, so he would come back to Florida. But that was a big decision on leaving the family. But then that gave me the opportunity to look at me again. And what did I really want? And because Thomas had actually been telling me, you need to look at yourself. You need to look at yourself. You're not doing what you're meant to be doing because of, not letting me go to work and actually insisting that I be with him in certain places, or like the Friday night, like I would play tennis and every time something would go wrong and so I couldn't play it. It's like no, it's not about the it's just like, no, tennis is not it, and it's like, okay, right, thank you, my guru, my teacher, my Thomas. Right. And so it took me a while. So I guess that's where the passion is, to share with others that, hey, don't take 2 decades to get to where I am. You can do it in a shorter span of time, But then that was part of my soul's journey. My soul's journey was to feel and go through these wake-up calls after wake-up call after wake-up call after wake. And I'm still going through a wake-up call. My health is having a challenge at the moment.
Sorry.
Yeah. And so, but it's part of my soul's journey, and it's, and I've got statistics now. I can say, well, actually, I can heal myself, and so that's happening as we speak.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah. Anyway, it's self-care and soul care, so important.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah. Let me see what else.
Yes.
So you may have shared a lot of this already, but what can you speak to? What have you learned that has made either traveling by yourself or with your husband or with the whole family easier? You kind of touched on planning well in advance, networking. You touched on that.
Yeah, well, really, it really comes back to that S word. So yes, we can have a plan, but then be open with it. I mean, yes, you have to book flights and get there, but the plan within the plan, have flexibility. Oh, I want to do the zoo, because I would want to get lots of things done. No, we have to pace ourselves, and so it's having that space for spontaneity. And it's almost connecting in with self. Actually, what's the most important thing I do today? It's actually to go to the zoo with Hazel and be in the zoo with Hazel. You know what I mean by that? It's actually, oh, wow, look at the long legs. Oh my gosh, look at the way it's chewing, really, really be in that experience and see it almost through her eyes. And I think that's the excitement. That's what Thomas has helped me do, is the wonder of life. Because Thomas loves vehicles, and we will quite often stand at the side of the road and look at the different cars and look at that. And sometimes I don't know what exactly he's looking at, but I can be inspired by the ally wheels, the mags and oh gosh, look at that shiny, and oh, I like that blue, or you can be in the wonder of the world with them.
Absolutely.
So being a recovering control freak, that can be quite hard.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's me. I'm thinking about myself when I travel, and it's always, you're as a mom, or you're used to what's next. Okay, well, we're at the zoo now, but we're going to have to do lunch. So what time is it? What time do I have to do lunch? Just your mind is always somewhere else. So I really appreciate that lesson too. I just love what you said about Thomas being your guru. I'm gonna go inside and just look at Hazel like, you're my guru. What are you going to teach me? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's thank you.
Yeah.
And as I mean, you are already on your path, and you are already looking at, you know, things that are holding you back and all of that. But as that becomes clearer and clearer, you will get those messages. You know, you will wake up in the middle of the night and it's just like, oh my gosh, it just feels like you. It feels like you, Hazel. It is me, Mum. Okay, right. What are we going to talk about? Okay, let's, you know what I mean? It's yeah, and you'll get it, and whatever form it takes, I don't know. It may be through a message from somebody else, or whatever. You will know that, you know, it's coming from her.
Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense.
So be open to it being through maybe someone else's voice, as in someone else speaks that truth, or the radio, or the song, or the, you know, my uncle's passed away earlier this year, and my aunt is struggling because she's quite spiritual. She said, I'm waiting for him to come through. And I said, well, what's been happening? She said, oh, well, I spoke to this lady and da da da. And I said, well, isn't she telling you something about him?
Right.
You know, so you don't expect the package to be the same. You know, it's being open. Oh, it could be that. It could, yeah. It could be your husband saying something. It's like, shoot, I never looked at it that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's going to slow me down too. I'm going to need to slow down and pay attention more.
Well, that is it. That is really it, Carrie. You know, with the that's what I've had to do. I mean, I'm creating with my singing teacher a song, you know, stop to go, and really you do have to stop and take stock, and then let all whatever, you know, the shoulds, the have tos, the conditioning, and then go, then take the step towards the real soul's desire. Because the ego wants to get all this stuff ticked off and done. And I didn't realize how much of a driver being the best mum is, you know, the best mum to Thomas was. And it's you know, let that all go. That's all ego. It's actually just being present. That's what they want. They want you to love, respect, and accept them for just who they are. Right, we've got off the track. Right. Best trips. One of the best trips. Now, one of the best trips, we did actually take support workers with us. So and we went to Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now, we went for a healing to John of God. Now, he doesn't have
sorry, that was in Surrender, and I highlighted that, like, to ask you about. So I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, and so he's got a bad rap now.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
he apparently he has done some bad things to people, and I you know, whatever, as creating an embrace and a healing space for Thomas and I, we went 3 weeks, and we went into these meditation rooms. We had these crystal beds, and that was probably the first time I lay in a hammock.
Wow.
Yeah, and was still. It was the first time I got a taste of it. So you don't need to go somewhere like that, but it's to go to the beach or wherever, go to the mountains and be in a cabin and just be by the water and allow the time to unfold. So give yourself the space rather than to move. Yeah,
absolutely. Have you done, speaking of kind of travel for treatments, have you done any other, because I was kind of thinking about doing some trips with Hazel. You know, they talk about medical tourism where you can have things done possibly in other countries where it doesn't cost as much as in the States, for instance. Have you guys done any kind of medical, besides that healing trip to Brazil, any other kind of medical travel?
Thomas, I mean, as you will probably know, Thomas's was medical negligence, his meningitis, because it wasn't treated, right? So we did travel to the UK, to Australia for those reasons. I do a lot of spiritual things here in New Zealand. So just last weekend, I drove him. We went for an hour drive. We went to see this facilitator because we know he's perfect just the way he is, just to facilitate any blocks. So just as we get blocks, they get blocks, and so he's just to facilitate the blocks. And he was as happy as Larry coming home. And what has unfolded, I started to feel that he was very quiet. And I was concerned. I thought, oh, what's happening here? And I re-tapped in with that lady, and he's actually he's happy. He's still. He's in his wah. He is realizing he doesn't need to be involved in the egoic of this one support worker who's leaving. And she was trying to create something out of. He was fine.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, so I do travel for that. We did travel there way back. Oh no, he came to New Zealand, didn't he? No, we did go to Australia for him as well. He was a neurodevelopment guy, so it was patterning. So we would get assessed by him every, I think it was about maybe 3 months. And we would look at what exercises we needed to do to get Thomas patterned. So he was initially quadriplegic with the meningitis. Wow. And so that the patterning got him up and walking again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay. And that was the patterning. Yeah. And so we traveled for that, and he would help us with the exercises. In those early days, I guess I traveled with Thomas. I suppose we did a trip to the US, to LA, and this was a special trip because it was with my dad. So my dad came, myself, Thomas, and a support worker. And we went to the John Tracy Clinic. So it was for hearing impaired. Okay. And we stayed in university flats, lived in starch sheets, but it was a time where we got to meet other parents from all over the world with hearing impairment. Now, Thomas's probably was the most complex, but it was a place where we went, and it was beautiful to see my dad share his heart, and others didn't get how their parents might be feeling about the situation. So it's a special, I well up because Dad's no longer with us, right? So it was a special time for us, and it was lovely. Thomas helped my father pack.
Oh, wow.
With the orange. So what he did is he packed fresh fruit, and of course my dad didn't know it was there, and he got hauled over by the Ag and Fisheries, and he got off. But I mean, it's just a special memory. Personally, so for me, it's only now that I'm starting to travel, and we got to Portugal just recently, and to feel that freedom, but I still don't have freedom from this. It's on 24/7.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if I have the answer for that.
Right. I think I interviewed someone else recently, and she talked about they had their adult daughter move into a home, and she has high needs like Hazel does, and she said that I think she called herself an empty nester, but with strings. Like, you can never really let go of. There's certain strings that we just aren't going to be able to let go of, but we try.
And I think the thing is they do, as you learn to trust, and I think this is a big word for me, is the trust in the support workers, that they are learning to communicate. And they may not get it right all the time, but neither do I. And so it's actually having that compassion for yourself and for them that they may not get it right all the time.
Right.
But they do have policies in place. You know, if he falls, then the ambulance and this and, you know, and with seizures. And so I've got to trust in that.
Do you have to write all of these policies, or is it now that he's in a residential contract, is that written through them?
Yeah, and I have input because we're doing a new model, trying a new model where I'm very involved. Then I will always review them and add my 2 cents, 2 cents worth. And I guess I'll always have those 2 cents. You know that saying, right? Adding your 2 cents worth.
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
So as much as I say I'm letting go control, I guess I always want to be involved, and that's always going to. I think Thomas wants me involved as well. Well, I know he wants me involved, because you know he calls out at times and I go. You know, I get the sense I need to go and see him, and I just go. Yeah.
I have a burning question. It's not really related to travel, but in a way it could be, because Thomas did tell you he wants to travel. You talked about how you guys do the plans with Thomas. Is it a 5-year plan? Is it any particular format that you follow, or how do you guys proceed with making his plan, and how do you prepare for it? How do you guys do it?
Right. Well, we've got an amazing facilitator here. Her name's Sue, and she gets an artist. She's got an artist, so it's all visual. Okay. I can send you. Do you want me to send you Thomas's plan?
Sure. I saw a picture of it in Communication His Way. It's one of the pictures that.
Oh yeah. So we've just updated it. So yeah. Okay. So that's what we do. So it's all visual, and we've got people in the room that know him, the support workers, whatever family that are close by come in, and we just all pitch in. You know, it was interesting. Like this last time, Thomas, we think Thomas wants to have a special person in his life, and so you know, one of his sisters said, well, actually, I think Thomas needs to be on TikTok, and we need to know about his life, and so we are moving towards getting someone to assist him with his business and getting him on TikTok, and so it's merging the two together.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. I'm not on TikTok. I will get on TikTok if he has a public account. I want to see Thomas on TikTok.
Well, yeah, I'm not on TikTok either. So, but yeah, maybe it's Instagram. I have no idea. But we're going to get someone to take that forward for him, and it'll be a way of meeting people and meeting someone with a similar soul's journey. Yeah,
sure, that's amazing. And then just one more question about Sue, your facilitator. Is this something she does professionally,
yes,
or is she okay? And is there a certain name for this type of practice that, because I
just
want
call it, yeah, it's a path. Now, look, I don't know if it would work over Zoom, but I mean, it might do. I could reach out. I mean, she's amazing. Sue, Sue was actually one of the people I reached out to for the, you know who you spoke to, Lisa. But she was working full time. Now she's not working full time. I'm wondering if she'd be open to it over Zoom. But because I strongly recommend her because of the and Georgia is an amazing artist. It's just whether that's possible.
Okay. Very cool.
In the States, I never met up with anyone. There's a guy called Philip Clark, and he's Enable Me. I think he's out of, I can't remember where he's, Enable Me. And his sister has Down syndrome, and he started an organization. He does have a different type of plan, but he was intrigued by Thomas's one.
Okay.
Yeah. So, or whether Sue has people in the States that she knows that does it. I don't know.
Yeah. I'll put a little note to ask you offline about if she knows anyone, or if she wants to work with people via Zoom. That'd be very cool.
Yeah, I'll do that as well. I'll send something off to her later, probably tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I know we're running short of time. Is there anything else that you feel regards to any of your philosophies or travel, or just anything that you feel like you'd really want to share with a mom who's on this path, or a dad who is wanting to travel more? Anything you have the burning desire to share?
I think it's what we started with, really. It's you as a soul need to do what lights you up, what gives you joy. And if traveling gives you joy, then you need to do that. Yeah. So there is a way to make it happen, so that you know, sometimes it may be with Hazel, but sometimes it may not be. And yes, that's hard. It's hard to leave them.
Right.
But yes, it can be done, because the joy that you get from that emanates out. I was just reminded yesterday of, how you can think of somebody, and then before you know it, they've come up, you've seen them, or you heard from them, or you've got a text from them. You know how you put out the waves of, oh, I'd love to see such and such, and that the excitement, so that those excitement waves go out. Same thing with doing the things you're joyful about. They get those joy vibes just as much as Thomas gets the vibes that something's happening. He had a seizure when I found out about this diagnosis, and the word that the doctor used, and he had seizures.
Oh my goodness.
So he got very fearful at that time.
Right. Wow.
It's not diagnosed. So the doctor used the cancer word with me, right? And it's not, but it is a tumor. It's a benign tumor. But because I got fearful and the doctor used that word, Thomas felt that. So just the same thing can happen with the joy factor. The fact, oh, mummy's planning a trip and we're going to go and whatever. And it's like, we'll make this work. Do you get much support? Do you have much like as in support, like as in carer support?
We have daytime nursing, so Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Wonderful nurse. But obviously Hazel has to stay here. That nurse can't travel with us. She has to be paid, to be at our house or within Florida, that type of thing. Then we have my in-laws live about 7 hours away in Pensacola. They will come and stay with Hazel so we can leave. And I trust them to be responsible for her care when I'm not there. So we do have that. And honestly, we're trying to take advantage of that now while Hazel is light. She's less than 40 pounds.
Brilliant. Yeah.
We're really trying to realize, this is our one moment in time where this is good. We may not always have this, appreciate it now, do what we can now instead of putting it off. It's like, there's never the perfect time to go on a trip. There's never the perfect time to do X, Y, Z, but if you can do it now, do it. Stop putting it off. So that's what I'm trying to tell myself. Yeah.
Oh, so you're about to do it, or you haven't? You're in the planning stage.
We're in planning stages. We've done small trips in the States. We've always been too scared to cross the Atlantic. We really want to do Europe. Probably not with Hazel the first time. Just my husband and I go over for a little bit. But we're fearful of being away. And what if she has a profound seizure? What if someone drops her? What if my mother-in-law gets sick and there's no, but we have the resources that we need. So we need to just do it. But we just,
thank you. You just do it.
Yes.
Honestly, that just fills me up. Just get on and do it. Please.
I'm going to put that action item.
Yeah. Well, and you'll notice how Hazel will, lighten up too, and she'll be refreshed and see you'll see different eyes, and you'll bring different experiences back with you. And that fear, keep feeling the fear, just keep feeling it, and letting, because when you feel the fear, it goes, and then you can just keep feeling it.
Will do. Well, this has been so wonderful. Thank you. I love talking to you. I love all your books. Do you have another book in the works, or are you taking a break from writing for a little while?
I'm taking a break. I mean, Thomas, I think Thomas wants me to, there'll be something he wants me, but I'm coming back to Florida next year.
Great. Okay.
I'm going to come to the conference again, probably speak and have the book there again.
Awesome.
I will be asking for support, so let me know. I was just going to say, I wonder if you can help me out one day, if you're,
Absolutely.
yeah, or something like that. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't do it the right way last time. I didn't ask for support, and I ended up with the bad COVID. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I will help you. I'm telling you now, if you need help, let me know. I plan on going to the conference. I was really sad that I didn't attend every day last year. So I will be staying at the hotel and doing all of that. So
Yeah,
I'll be
and
there
that's
for
what
you.
yeah, okay, that would be cool. That would be good to help. There's another girl that said she'd come and help as well. So it would be really, really good, yeah, just to have a few of us. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Be lovely.
Happy to.
Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Well, it's so
Okay.
nice to
Well, you
talk to
take
you.
care, my dear.
All right.
You
You
too.
too.
Take
Thank you.
care.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Bye.